You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
As far as I know.
So I am really grateful that you would sit down and do a podcast with me. It's a lot to ask of a friend. So thank you.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
For sharing your story.
Me.
So, Doug, you have been in real estate since 1982.
Yes.
And I kind of, as I was thinking about that, thinking how much it must have changed.
Correct. Yes.
But before we dive into it, can you kind of take us back? So are you originally from Virginia?
Yes. My parents met at the University of Richmond.
Okay.
And so I was here till first grade. My dad was transferred to New York. So we moved to Darien, Connecticut, a little small town outside of New York. And then they moved the headquarters to Denver, so I went to high school in Colorado. But my family is all from Virginia. My mom grew up in Norfolk. My father moved around, but from Virginia. All my relatives basically are from Virginia, Culpeper.
So what brought you back to Virginia?
Well, I came back because I knew I didn't want to stay in Colorado, so I came back and went to Washington and Lee University and thought I wanted to be an architect and spent some time talking to architects and applying to school. And long story short, didn't really think that there was something I wanted to do. Went and worked for one, took some classes, at any rate. But I was also I was doing an internship at the Connecticut Trust for Historic Preservation in New Haven, Connecticut. And they were doing a lot of interesting real estate, historic things. And so real estate just sort of came into my psyche, and I realized I wasn't going to be an architect. So I didn't want to be. And so interest rates in 1982 were, 19%. So real estate was not, on everyone's list of things to do or work in. So I interviewed with this company called Previews, which is now owned by Coldwell Banker, and it was a company that was started to basically sell islands and remote properties, and really interesting business model. They had you paid them 10% of the sales price up front to do all the marketing. And this was for the internet, so it was all magazine and brochure driven. Really cool company, great people. I was going to go work in the Middleburg office, and back then it took almost 9 months to get your Virginia real estate license. So by the time I got my real estate license back from wherever it went, they were closing offices. So they closed the Middleburg office, and I had a Virginia real estate license but nowhere to go. So I knew a bunch of people in Richmond and ended up here. So
it took as long to, that is like a baby. It's like getting your license was like having a baby.
And not as much fun, I don't think.
So, okay. I think I could get into selling islands and things like that.
Yeah, that was they were really interesting people, and they were very cutting edge, and they were actually getting clients to pay them up front to handle all the advertising. And their headquarters were in Greenwich, and I don't know if they had offices around the world. I know they had a lot of offices on the West Coast, and I say a lot. I don't really remember, but at any rate, it was a neat process to go through the interview and meet all these people, and they said, yes, we want to hire you. Go get a Virginia real estate license. And then 9 months later, it was a different landscape. So
we have the other thing we have in common.
Right.
Paths get.
Yes.
One door opens, another one closes.
Yeah, no, it was great. And I went into the newspaper and found a company to go to work for who were super nice, Johnson & Thomas, Wayne Johnson and Johnny Thomas. And they hired me, and, I think I still had Colorado license plates on my car. So that was always an explanation to tell people. And anyway, they were great, and it was a fun. I was very fortunate.
So what was the market like outside of interest rates being 19%? Was it common to be, in your very early 20s in real estate? Did you stand out? Was that more of what the marketplace looked like?
I don't think there was a lot of younger people there in the business at that time. I don't remember exactly how many agents maybe the MLS system had, but the firms were very small and very like Long and Foster, or I guess it was Long. I can't remember if it was Long and Foster, but whatever the
Bowers
predecessor.
Nelms.
Bowers Nelms and Palmville. They were by far the biggest, but not a fraction of what they are now. And there was 4 or 5 firms that sort of handled a lot of the real estate, and you knew everybody. So it was a fun time to be in it, and it was not an easy sale. We were looking for assumable loans, and my first house, I had a negative amortization mortgage, which was, if the payment was $1,000, they took $500 of it, added it to the principal, and I paid $500. They probably lose their license for offering that product now, but it worked for me, and it was a house that needed a lot of work, and I did a lot of work myself. But it was an interesting time, and it was a fun time. It was fun to start sort of at the bottom and work your way up.
Did you feel like when you got into the business that it fit like a glove, or did you have moments of questioning, is this the right career for me?
No, I loved it from the beginning, and I never really questioned whether I was in the right or wrong spot. So it was good.
Yeah, I think you probably save a lot of energy not having doubt.
Yeah.
Just focusing on
I was with some
business.
really good people from Johnson & Thomas. I went to a company called Virginia Landmark,
Yes.
Who had commercial and residential, and Joe Statinius and Alec Hamilton were 2 wonderful mentors. I became a partner in that firm and sort of grew the residential side. They did the commercial, and we ended up selling it actually to Long and Foster. But I was just very fortunate in each step of whatever I was doing in the real estate business, being with really good people.
Do you think that is something that is missing in today's real estate landscape with regards to mentorship? Because I have similar feelings about the
I
value
think real
of what
estate
I've
is
learned.
100% a mentor business, and if you go somewhere and you don't have somebody to talk to or to take you under their wing or to ask questions of, I think you can't learn it on the internet. Or back then we watched a video. I didn't, but some people watched videos, and it was very, at any rate, it was just not my style, and I just think you have to have a mentor. I think that's really important. I don't care what job you're in. I just think it's nice to have someone that's looking out for you.
Yeah, it can be. Have you ever found it to be a potentially lonely business if you don't have people around you?
Well, I do think no, I haven't, but I could see how that could be. You get your license and you get your business cards, and the broker says, let me know what you're doing. And I would think that would be very lonely and very pretty much being set up for failure, actually.
Yeah, I hear it a lot.
Yeah.
Teaching and just talking with other agents, how lonely the business is. And I recognize, the allure, the attraction of being able to work from home.
Right.
But you and I are both someone that works out of the office every day. And
I like going to an office, and I think that's important. And I know a lot of people have nicer offices at home than I've ever had. But I do think I see that with my son, who lives in New York and works out of his house. And it sounds very romantic and whatnot, but he doesn't have the socialization. And socialization is key to whatever, old age, young age, working.
That feeling of being connected with somebody.
Yeah, connected to somebody. And so I think it's very important.
When you were working in the firm that you grew the residential, was that like a vision that you had, or did it just? How did that?
No, once again, there were just some great people there. There was no. I don't think we had a vision.
You're so humble.
We were not that smart. But
I'll have to work to get you to talk.
I think we had really good people that attracted really good people, and so it was fairly easy. And there weren't a lot of choices, so not like today, So we, I think it was totally it was just word of mouth, and a lot of really, really talented people went through the Virginia Landmark doors.
I know the name. I've heard it many times in my career.
Well, Sidney Guns, who developed Innsbruck, Jimmy Carter, who's now down at the river that does a lot of work. I mean, there were just a lot of Sue Tepper. There's a lot of lists of people that are still active that were really instrumental in the success of the firm, and just they were wonderful people. So.
How did it work being in a firm? And it's an industry that is ultra competitive, but it sounds like there was a lot of collaboration and a lot of sharing.
Yeah.
That is such a secret. That is just like the magic mixture.
Yeah.
If you can have that in a business.
Yeah, I agree. I think the collaboration was there. Everyone worked. I would say I never really knew of anybody that didn't work for the betterment of their clients or for the firm. We didn't really have anybody that was an outlier or a rabble-rouser. We just didn't have that kind of personality. And yes, people clearly were interested in collaborating.
Do you think that was because it was modeled to everybody?
Well, like a lot of things, I think the mantra of the firm was that way when I got there, and everyone acted like that, and it starts at the top and goes down to the bottom. And if you have people that are your leaders that have a certain vision and certain way of running a business, then it spreads out to everybody, in theory.
So your career then takes another turn, correct?
Yeah.
Tell me how that happened.
You mean when we sold? Yes. So one of the things was my father, who had retired, was down in Irvington, down on the Chesapeake, and was probably driving my mother nuts and me nuts because he didn't have anything to do. So I said, why don't you go get your real estate license? And he was one of those guys that was very curious and taught me that too. And so he did. And he came up to Richmond, stayed at the Residence Inn for a week, and got his license. And so Virginia Landmark didn't want to have an office down there, so we sort of licensed the name. Okay. And so we sort of ran that business separately. And when we ended up selling Virginia Landmark, we did not sell that portion of the business. And so, we were at Virginia Landmark, the Christie's part of our business was really important. When I first got there, I think in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article about this lady named Kay Coughlin from Santa Fe who had started, I think she had it going on. It was called Great Estates. And she had boutique firms and some large ones as well around the country. I don't think they were international then, but and I read that she was starting this company and was looking for more people. So I called, and they sent us some questionnaire. We filled it out, and like the next week, I was in New York at their first meeting, and that was a really great game changer. I think not only for our company, but clearly for me, because I was young, and the first table I sat down with was in New York, and there was this gentleman and all buttoned up, and it turned out to be David Ogilvy, whose dad was Ogilvy and Mather, and he had a firm in Greenwich. And you just sit there and listen to him talk about how he markets and what was important, and things as simple as like, if I think I'm going to get a listing in November, I will go take photos of it in May, and the minutia of his business. And he had this huge artist portfolio. And that's how he did his listing presentation. So it'd be similar to turning on your laptop, but this was a very visual and big black portfolio that artists carry around.
Right.
And he had this whole spiel, and it was buttoned up like him, and he was a great guy. And there were a lot of people like that. There was a guy named Hall Wilkie who was at Brown Harris Stevens, which was probably the biggest firm in Christie's at the time. He's still, I think, practicing. David has since passed away. But there was a lady named, what was it? Ebby Holiday in Dallas, I think, or Houston, who was
still a big
They were
brand.
all amazing, and they all ran. We shared ideas on best practices, and you heard how they marketed, and it was a really well thought out collaboration, once again, of a bunch of, there was no reason not to share because you were in different markets. So you learned a lot about your competitors and what they were doing to market, take care of clients, take care of agents, grow your practice, whatever.
So you were in on the ground floor of Christie's.
Yeah, and we were there for 32 years, I think.
That is incredible.
Which it grew and grew and grew and got more expensive, and we were sort of priced out of that. But also technology had come along and changed so that a lot of the things we were doing were you could get in on the internet. So it wasn't as bad, but it was certainly a great time to be a part of a really interesting group of people that were almost like us. I mean, they were just nice people that you would want to have over for dinner. I mean, they were smart, and it was really, and it set us apart because nobody else in Richmond had Christie's. Carolyn Mears had Virginia Properties at the time, and she became a Sotheby's rep. And back then, there wasn't a franchise. Either one of these was not a franchise. It was something you joined. So she joined that, and so that was sort of our biggest competitor during the time for big properties and separating yourself, differentiating yourself in the market.
Do you ever think about what your career would have looked like if you didn't reach out to Christie's?
No, I don't think about that. But I mean, I have other things to think about. But no, it was fortuitous. And, I was just very fortunate, and pretty much I don't know of anything that hasn't worked out for me one way or the other.
I think it's your attitude.
Well, I don't know, but I don't think about what could have been, but I do think about what was, and I try and utilize some of those practices, if you will, and think about those people and what they were doing and how it all worked out.
Yeah, well, I'll think about it for you because it's just
send me a memo.
Okay, I'll run it through ChatGPT or Brittany will run it through Claude for you, and we'll see what they have to say. Those are the things that I guess when you look back in the rear view, it's easy to look and say, perhaps those were really great decisions, and imagine what it could have been. Absolutely. I wonder what made you actually pick up the phone. I wonder, do you think like that collaborative nature that you had was just something you were looking for?
I think it was because I felt, knowing that it was just going to be offered to one person in Richmond at the time, I just felt like it was a differentiator that really would set us apart.
Were you already in the luxury space at that time?
Well, our firm handled a lot of nice properties.
Yes.
We had a lot of nice clients and different. And back then, I mean, there wasn't very much even close to $1 million.
No.
So it was the luxury market as defined as now was not even something people talked about. It was just that house on Carey Street that was more expensive than the others.
Than everything else. What did your dad do before real estate?
He worked at Johns Manville. He was it's interesting, back in the day when a lot of our parents, and my dad included, worked for these firms, they were fed up the food chain and they had a mentor. And, I look back on all my dad's friends and all the people that I met through him. That was what there was a lot of loyalty, and that's sort of lacking today on a lot of levels. But so he was an account exec. He was a vice president. I don't know what he was, but he was. He had a very nice life, and Johns Manville was asked by the government to make asbestos. So when they did, it was great, and then when they found out it wasn't healthy, the company was bankrupted. So, and Warren Buffett bought the business except for the liabilities. So they were very profitable. They did a lot of things. They owned golf McGregor, and they did a lot of interesting sprinkler systems. I mean, mostly insulation was what they were known for. So the pink is the Pink Panther, Owens Corning, and Johns Manville was yellow.
Okay.
For the record.
Nice distinguishing, yes.
So they moved the headquarters to Denver, and I was in 8th grade. I didn't know. I thought we were going to have like deer running through our yard and stuff. I mean, I had no idea. All these people from the East Coast moved out to Denver.
Yeah.
No idea about Denver and Colorado, and I think a lot of parents would have probably said, well, little Dougie will move and he won't have any new friends because he's in 8th grade and it's a hard time total
And was that true?
Not true. No. Not true at all. And I'm grateful that my parents didn't make that decision based on little Dougie. And they made it because they thought it was great for them professionally and personally, and they were 100% correct.
So your dad, did he retire early?
Yeah, they retired everybody early.
Okay, so it was early. And obviously,
he was like 56.
That's really early.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of fuel in the tank.
Yeah.
A lot more to give.
Right. He did.
Did you have any reservations about going into business with him?
No, none. I mean, and how fortunate I was. And anybody who has a chance to work with a parent, and you do that.
I do.
It's sort of rare. And do you have disagreements on things? Of course. But I don't think there's anything nicer than being able to call up your mom or dad and do that synergy thing and be a part of each other's life but outside of,
I agree. And the trust you have with each other.
Well, it was fun because he was trying to, of course, he thought he was still on a Fortune 500 company budget, so he was spending all this money on marketing. And that was where we did have some disagreements because I said, Dad, this is our money you're spending. It's not coming from a slush fund somewhere deep in a accountant's, bank account. So at any rate, but he was smart and he loved learning all that and was good at it. And, he found these 4 ladies who wanted to come start a company down there and got them together, got the building. I mean, it was great for him and great for all, as it turned out, it was great for all of us. So
Doug, they moved from Colorado to Irvington? No,
they moved from Colorado back to Connecticut where a friend of theirs was transitioning a business and he was sort of the guy to help the dad pass on the business to the sons. So they were there for 5 years. So it was I think it was 88 or 89 they moved to Irvington.
What brought them to Irvington?
Well, they wanted to be back in Virginia, and they looked like a lot of people at the river do, from, the Potomac all the way down to Georgia, anything on the waterfront.
Yes.
But they pretty much wanted to be in Virginia, and Irvington had a hospital, and the Tides Inn was there at the time, and still is. And I don't know, I think it was more of just it was convenient to. My mom's parents were in Norfolk still.
Yes.
So I think they always wanted to be in Virginia, back in Virginia. So
I'm just thinking through, you've been in the business. You have a lot of experience at that point. Your dad gets into the business. I don't know if you've ever, my mom and I both got in together. Most people assume, and I would imagine it might have been similar for you, that you were the legacy coming in to his business, but you were not. You had started in the business.
Right.
But you obviously had a clear boundaries as to...
we really didn't. I would like for you to think that we had some grand plan. But
we don't have clear boundaries either, just to let you know.
I mean, I was in Richmond and he was down there. And so I was running this office and he was down there. And we had a lot of collaboration, of course, but we didn't have really, once again, it was all driven by people.
Yeah.
So we only hired people that we enjoyed, that we thought were going to do a good job. And mostly they were all experienced because we didn't have a training program necessarily. But I think what my father noticed down there was a lot of the reasons people move to the Northern Neck is because it's laid back and they don't go there to have the phone ring and be bothered by some guy wanting to see piece of property. So when they were buying their house, it was interesting to go through these people just wouldn't call you back for 2 days and they were out fishing or chasing geese or whatever they were doing. And so we thought, okay, if we bring a more professional standard and we actually answer the phone and I'm not bragging or downplaying those people because they were all talented, but it was just more of, let's take it up a notch. So. And it worked out well. And I think a lot of people figured out that there's some great reasons to be down there. And it's a great profession to be in at the river. And if you handle it professionally, you can make a nice living. And so it went from just sort of a laid back world to, a little more businesslike.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You were managing the office here.
Yeah.
He was managing the office in Irvington. So you had breathing room from each other.
Yeah.
You were still,
but I mean, I never, we never sat down and said, my father liked to do what he liked to do, and I had the ultimate trust in him, so I never really thought about it. And I would think he would have thought the same thing about me, and we were just, once again, back to Virginia Landmark, where, it was one of the few partnerships I've ever been in where I felt like the partners would bend over backwards to make sure everyone in the group was happy, including the people that worked there, not just it's all about me or it's all about, So that same attitude sort of carried on to what was Virginia Landmark that became Select Properties of Virginia.
I just hear this repeating theme over and over again of people first.
Yeah.
No drama.
Right.
Like I don't even think you expect it, so it doesn't happen. It's like you.
Well, there's always drama in real estate.
It
and
is,
it may
but
come
it's
from outside.
Yeah, but internally.
Yeah, no, we didn't. I don't remember anybody having a. Yeah.
So was your dad somebody, or your parents folks did they sail?
Yeah, they were. When we lived in Connecticut, we were a block from Long Island Sound, so yeah, they sailed, and I think my father went to camp and sailed too, and my mom's family went to Virginia Beach, and I think they had a little sailboat, and so yeah, it was in our DNA of the water and boats.
Because you are somebody who enjoys spending time on the water and sailing.
Yeah.
Something I did not know about you until recently is that you're an artist.
Oh.
And I just see feels like there's you're at a different speed than I am. I think I need to take more tips from you. I think you're looking around and actually taking note of your environment, because then you're able to translate it into art.
Yeah. That's a good observation. I agree with you. I think I do stop and smell the roses, to use that old saying. I do pay attention to a lot of things that
people don't.
Not just the end, but the journey to it.
So you've been painting and giving away calendars.
Right, or selling them.
It's okay to make money.
Yes.
For how long?
Well, the calendar I've been doing this will be the 37th year, I believe.
Never missed it?
No, haven't missed it. And it came about because my mom used to work in a shop out in Colorado, and there was a lady in Maine who did the same type of calendar. And she wrote them a note and said, "I'm not doing this anymore. I have 2 kids and whatnot." So my mom called me and said, "Doug, you should do this." And, I never really questioned pretty much anything my parents told me to do or not to do. And so I did. And I remember the first one was a financial disaster because I didn't know what I was doing. And I think I spent like $17,000 on the layout and getting an artist and all the, getting a layout group and printing it. It was a nightmare. And now it's no longer. It's easy to do. But yeah, it's fun to do. I mean, I used to ship it to 4 or 5 countries and pretty much all the states. And I've never met a lot of these people, but they send me little notes when they send their check in, and it's really quite fun. It's kept me also connected with a lot of people that. I have 2 or 3 families and friends who buy in bulk, and then they give them out to either their family members or friends of mine from high school, or so. It's sort of fun. It's been a real great connector to a lot of people of all ages, which is. And I barely get it done, and I wish I'd started it earlier. And I was thinking about it this morning
because you knew I was going to ask you about it.
No, but I just knew. No, I was looking at my table that didn't have anything going on, and I thought I really need to get on that.
So where does did it come from your mom?
My mom could have been a beautiful artist, but she was raising children, and my dad traveled, and she just never. But she. As long as I can remember, gave me, and maybe my sister too, I don't know, but definitely gave me paints, pens, paper. Every birthday, Christmas, whatever, and I always did it. I love it, and it's a nice. I imagine, I love music. I don't know how to play anything, but I would imagine somebody who has that talent to go home and be able to, unwind that way or think about things differently. Is pretty nice.
Did you ever take formal classes?
Oh yeah, no, I took some classes. I took some when I moved back to Richmond. It was one of my majors in college.
Okay.
I remember taking a lot in high school. We had a really good program there. I haven't taken one in a while. I would like to. I need to ramp up my, learn more. But yeah, so it didn't come naturally, but in some ways it did, because it was just something I did, and I didn't really care if you liked it or not.
I like that attitude a lot. I paint what I want.
Well, I mean, it's not like if you said paint a portrait of my son, and which A, I could never do that, but B, I imagine that is probably the hardest thing in the world to paint. And I've painted people's dogs before, and everyone has an opinion about Spot's left eye and his fur, and it's hard to. That's just a tough one. So the paintings I do, I just paint for myself, and I hope that people like it.
Is it primarily landscapes?
It's primarily landscapes and architecture and
around Virginia.
It's actually anywhere. Some of these folks who get the calendar send me photos of something they saw that was interesting, or if there's a ad in a magazine and part of it seems interesting, I might rip it out. Or it just depends. I try and, because it goes to more people outside of, more people outside of Virginia than not just to keep it Virginia or water and try and do mountains or whatever. I don't really have an agenda for that too. It just depends on what happens to be looking good.
We were talking about, staying in touch with clients earlier. I mean, I don't have a card as big as doing a custom calendar. I mean, it's got to be meaningful to your clients.
Well, I don't use it that way. I wish you made me think about that when I was driving down here. I should use it more that way. But I always felt like that's just sort of pushy. So I don't know. I don't do it that way. And most people don't know I even paint. So, and that's fine. I should do more. Have
you been intentional about keeping those two spaces separate?
No, but I just didn't. Sometimes I just didn't. I guess I just didn't think about it should be combined in some fashion.
I understand, and I can think through how it could come off in a negative way.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's negative. I just didn't think about it.
Well, think about it.
I'll think about it. I'm making a mental note.
I need you to reflect on your choices.
Yeah, you need to write all this down and send it. Give me a list.
You're a lot deeper than you're letting on.
Yeah.
So, do you see, is art something that is just for Doug then? Is it
pretty much? I mean, it's just for me only because, like I said, I paint what I want to paint, and I don't really care if you like it or not, or if anyone likes it. Although apparently they do, so that's good.
They do. I love that you've made it a loose calendar so that it can then become artwork. Yeah,
and that was the original lady who, well, actually she didn't. Her numbers were embedded in the art, so my idea was to do what you've seen. Cut the bottom off and frame it, or cut it up and use it as a note card. And it used to come in a plastic frame called a Dax frame, which I don't even know if they make anymore, but it was about an inch thick. So now there's all kinds of different ways to show it.
I think
display it.
When you something that I have personally struggled with is not having a hobby, not knowing that there's no badge that you get for working all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm always really impressed by folks who have found something that they can plug into outside of this business.
Well, I think that's true.
It is.
It's good for your health. I mean, balance is everything.
Do you ever feel guilty going and getting on your sailboat?
No. No, because I planned stuff out, and I feel like, and it's nice to have a cell phone. So if anybody's really that interested in getting me, I will pick up. So, but no, I don't. No, I don't feel guilty taking, and you shouldn't either. I mean, all of us should take time for ourselves.
Yes.
You have to, otherwise you'd lose your mind, I think.
Yeah, I think the wrong message is being sold to consumers, always available.
Right.
I'm not always available. I will do my best to be available.
Right.
But you don't get the best of me if you get me 24/7.
Well, you're not getting anything less, frankly.
Right.
You're getting a better person probably because they are balanced. And they are thinking about something besides why isn't your house selling or should we paint the living room or whatever.
So when you ran the business with your dad, I just get this vibe from you that it wasn't about numbers. It wasn't about sales. Were you ever like writing business plans and we want to sell this amount of properties to this amount of folks?
No,
or was it
we
more?
Didn't. I don't think we did. We might have thought about, put your growth factor on a business, but I think it was all basically if we have the right people and you do the right things, then all that stuff will follow. So we didn't really, we just figured that we would get better and better and not bigger necessarily, but just better at what we did and have more clients and feel good about what we were doing.
I think that's something that is probably undersold, the value of serving, doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Yeah.
And then the results really showing in who chooses to trust you.
Well, the results will follow in theory. I mean, you can have all the business models you want, but I think we were, and I'm surprised as my dad growing, having a professional Fortune 500 company business model to come from would have been more, and he was a little more, checkbox and things that he wanted to get done, which was great. And some of them worked and most of them did actually. But I don't think we ever thought that I really just felt like if we had really good people and we did the right things and we worked hard and enjoyed ourselves, we would attract more people and good clients and we would do better.
Where does that come from? Were one of your parents like that?
Both my parents were like that, yeah. Are like, my mom is still like that.
Yes.
She's still
alive. What a gift to give somebody.
Yeah.
They didn't give you the gift of anxiety.
They never know. My father told me to go to college and grow up and graduate in 4 years. I was the end of that, which I did. I don't know if I grew up, but I definitely graduated in 4 years. So, no, they never. They were very, very supportive of anything and everything I ever did. I mean, the first job I had out of college was teaching sailing. So you can imagine some parents might freak out over that. Oh, that's nice. We just spent all this money for you to go to college to teach sailing. But they never said anything like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They could have.
I need to reflect on that as a parent myself.
Yeah.
Take some notes.
No.
You can give me some homework to think through.
I'll give you some homework.
So, Doug, did your dad raise his hand and say, I'm ready to retire again? How did you end up where you are today, which is at our firm that we're both at together? How did that transpire?
Well, first of all, my father passed away at a young age, or 78, which I think is young.
It is.
So, and that was, so I had both these offices and that was a little harder to do. And not only did I miss him from the standpoint of he's my father, but from the standpoint of having another person to help run the business.
Yeah.
And as you know, this business has gotten so complicated and the writing was on the wall that, like a lot of businesses that are small, I mean, I think we had, 50 agents in 2 offices. And as you also know, probably 4 of them actually made a living. But, so we had, there was no way that I felt like I was going to be able to, back in the day, I felt like we provided everything we could to our agents and to make them better. But looking at the landscape moving forward, the business world, et cetera, the economy, whatever you want to call it, I realized there was just no way I was going to be able to keep up with compliance and all the changes, as you know, and communicate that to all these agents. And it just was not, I just could not see that ending well. So Scott Sheen called me, and that was that.
So you folded into Shaheen, Ruth Martin, and Bonville. Did it feel like, how did it feel to transition?
It was the nicest thing in the world. You know, I don't have to worry about the copier being broken or, you know, whatever.
So can you
answering
honestly
the phone
say
call.
there was no ego in it? Just, this is the highest and best
It was the right
decision.
thing to do for everybody, including my agents, I felt, and for me. But I didn't really realize how nice it was really going to feel.
Did you ever feel like, I think on the outside, as I'm trying to imagine you running this very successful business, sometimes when something unexpected like the loss of your dad happens, or whether it's an end of a chapter,
Yeah.
a very important chapter, I think sometimes you see people afraid to make decisions because they're afraid what other people are think, or, people are not going to think I'm successful anymore. Did you go through any of that?
No. I didn't really care what people thought. I really thought
I can't wait.
I really just thought what needed to happen to keep the business going and make sure all these people that are friends of mine, had a good spot to land, and which is what happened. And I don't think we lost anybody. We might have lost a few people just because they were getting out of the business, but I think everyone who has stayed with Scott's group has been happy and are better agents because of it. And I could have only seen that not being the case had they stayed under my tutelage.
I think it says a lot about you to make a decision based upon the people in your care.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like I said, all these people throughout my life I've been lucky. And, when you're with good people that trust you and you work with a long time, you know them there's Colleen Schott, who's in our office in Irvington. I mean, she's been there for as long as, she's had her license for 44 years, and I think she's been with us for 40 years. I mean, how rare is that?
So
An
rare.
agent.
So incredibly
And
rare.
and the other ones have been there quite some time too, and they're family. I mean, they're just nice people. And I could have never felt like I was doing anybody any favor by driving this thing into the ground and then just waking up and going, well, I guess that didn't work, or it worked out for me, but not for you, so whatever. So it was good. I think it worked out very, very well for everybody. I would like to think that. I think that's true.
Oh, well, we're lucky that you're with us, for
Well,
sure.
you're nice to say that.
Well, it's the truth. I mean, I value people's experience. That's so important to me, to be surrounded by people that have
Well, I'm glad you
so much more to offer.
All of you moved into
I know
my
we got
office.
the best seat in the house.
I don't know about that, but I mean, it's nice. It's nice to be able to have someone to talk to.
Yeah, and to
Because
think,
people don't come into the office like they used to. I mean, you had to come into the office in the old days to get anything. No one had a fax machine at their house or access to a copier, or you had to come into the office to actually get all the services that, quote unquote, you were providing as an owner. But now you don't, which I think is unfortunate, because I think, back as we talked about, I mean, coming into the office and talking to people, and whether it's for 5 seconds or a long time, the synergy part is really important to growth.
what do you think when you think about where you are in your career? What do you think agents are overlooking, perhaps, that they have because we all have similar tools.
Yeah.
But people want the glamour. They'll buy all of the shiny objects. I've been there. I've been the shiny object consumer. What do you think agents are overlooking?
I don't know if they're overlooking anything. I think everyone has their own style. But I mean, if you think about your lawyer or your accountant, I mean, they don't drive around with their name on the side of a truck. They're just good, and people find them because of that. So I don't know. I mean, I get different marketing spiels, but I sort of feel like if you that's the perfect example. I mean, you're a professional. I don't think the public, and I don't think sometimes the actual agents look at themselves as a professional. It's more like, well, if I sell 2 houses, then I'm really doing well, and I also have this side gig, and I'm doing other things, and I get to go to open houses and whatever. It just depends on. It just depends on what tact you want to take and how hard you want to work and where you focus your energy. And but I think you can do very, very well by not by just working hard and doing what you're supposed to be doing.
If you had to do it over again, if you could change any part of your career, would you change anything?
No, I wouldn't. I feel very lucky.
It says a lot about your career.
Well,
your
once
outlook.
again, I mean, I think if I had been surrounded by a bunch of people that I couldn't stand or, just wasn't working well, then I might have a different thought. But I was very, very fortunate if you could pick your parents, and I know you can't, but if I did, I would have picked mine. And from there all the way through, I've just been really, really great people. And I don't think I can wish for anything different.
So many of the self-help books and the quotes that you see everywhere, there's so much talk about gratitude, and it's something I really believe in.
Yeah.
But that's something you are clearly practicing. And I think that's even found in the way that you stop and observe the world around you. You're grateful. That's what really comes off to me, as you're very grateful for the life and the journey that you've had so far.
I am very grateful.
It's just but
I feel bad for people who
that aren't.
Don't go through life and are not grateful or fortunate in whatever choices they make. I mean, I hate to see that. It happens, and I guess it could still happen to me. I'm still alive, so
absolutely, it can happen to any of us.
I think being able to, I am very grateful. I mean, I really can't think of any twist or turn that's gone on in my life that hasn't worked out one way or the other. Maybe in the middle of it, you're wondering, oh gosh, I wonder what's going to happen. But if you sort of feel like all things happen for a reason and happen for the best, then it does.
We're not saying you haven't been through a lot, because I think little things can really derail people. Big things can certainly derail people. I mean, my mom and I have been in business together for 22 years. The thought of ever losing her one day worries me about how will I perform? I know I'm strong, but it could derail you.
Yeah, it definitely is a gut check of what you do next and how you figure it out. And once again, you're grateful for those 22 years or whatever the number is. And, what do you think your mom would like you to keep doing? Probably doing what you're doing.
Serving
under the
people.
same terms and conditions that you're doing it. And that, I think, would obviously make her proud, and wherever she is, looking down, probably is very happy to have you as a daughter.
You just try and do your best.
Right. That's all you can do.
So you're a grandfather now.
I am a grandfather.
How old is your grandchild?
She just turned 1.
That's what I thought.
June 21st.
How's life changed for you?
It's sort of amazing. I mean, I don't know if anybody else is interested in this, but when you become a grandparent, all of a sudden you remember what you were doing when you were having your children, because it's been 30 years. So it's really neat. It's amazing. It's very it's really, really just wow. I don't know how to describe it.
I saw my parents totally transform.
Yeah. When
I had my son, and I didn't I guess I never thought about it.
Yeah.
It was just something I witnessed, and it's been a really
Well,
important piece.
I mean, it's amazing to think that well, in my case, my daughter was having a baby. I mean, are you kidding me?
Stretches your brain.
Right. And, thankfully everybody's healthy and happy and, well, what else can you hope for?
Do you worry about or think about housing and the struggles or the hurdles she may face? We hear a lot about affordability.
Yeah. I don't worry about it because I can't control what's going on in the housing world. But I think that they both my son-in-law and my daughter work hard. And, I think back, okay, I have a negative amortization.
Yeah.
I had no business buying. I was totally overreaching. Okay. I should not even, those people really should not be bankers anymore. But, so yeah, I think it works its way out. And as we've talked about, Richmond is still undervalued compared to pretty much everywhere else to have this lifestyle and these amenities. So yeah, it's more expensive, but I mean, everything is more expensive. And so I would like to think that they are smart enough to adapt to all that and work hard and save their money, and something will come along. And whether they stay in Northern Virginia or come here or go somewhere else, sort of immaterial. I just want them to be happy. But I think we have to. Everyone has to take a deeper look into where you want to be and what you can afford, and if that means living somewhere else besides the most expensive places in the world, and there's other choices. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't worry about it, but I do hope that it all comes around. And I mean, as we used to say, I mean, any interest rate under 10% is good. So at 6.2 or 6.9, really, I mean, that's still pretty good.
People just
it's not 19.
Yes. It's just
so figure it out, and they will. All of us will. Andy will. Andrew. All of us will. All of our kids will
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a decision, though, to have that mentality.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is a decision.
It is a decision to be positive and to look for solutions rather than problems.
Right. Yeah.
It is 100%.
I mean, I see some of these kids driving around in really nice cars and that cost more than my house when I first bought it. I mean, so everything's ramped up. But I think also when I was graduating from school, you were either a banker or insurance or went to a training program in Charlotte. I mean, you didn't go out and say, let's raise some money and go create something amazing and sell it for a lot of money, which is amazing to me. And these kids have that opportunity that wouldn't even darken the door of my thought process back then.
So what's next for Doug Dorsey?
I mean, it's nothing overly exciting. I mean, I hope to keep working till Shaheen comes in and tells me to
till he takes the keys from us.
Go to the big MLS room in the sky somewhere. I mean, it's because I don't have any managerial responsibilities. It's really, why wouldn't I keep working? So.
I think I think I've learned a lot of lessons sitting across from people's tables. It's the whole reason this whole podcast exists is the lessons and the different stories that I have been witness to. And you learn a lot about human behavior and kind of what to do and what not to do. And a big lesson that I have taken away from my clients has been, in some ways, don't retire, because you've got to keep working. You've got to have purpose. You've got to have meaning. And you see people's health really go down. And that's not always the case.
Right.
But I think that there's so much to offer folks when you have that amount of experience. It's good to hear that you're not.
I mean, I think, that if nothing else, if you decide you didn't want to sell anymore, giving back all that knowledge in a classroom is really valuable, and it would be a shame not to harness that and have people sitting there listening to you.
Well, selfishly, we're really glad that you're not wanting to go anywhere, because there's a lot for us to learn from you.
Well, I don't know. I hope so.
And I'll end with
vice versa.
I'll end with this question, because this is what I ask everyone. What does home mean to you?
What does what?
Home.
What does home mean? I don't know. I guess it means just a happy place to go to at the end of the day, and I don't have any deep thoughts on that. I mean,
when you think about what you and I do for a living,
right?
Because we have shared occupations, obviously. That's what we do. We're helping people.
Yeah.
Not always homes. Sometimes it's land. Sometimes it's commercial buildings.
Right.
But it's yes, it is a place, but I think it represents a lot more than that to people.
Yeah. I mean, like we were talking about today, I mean, there's so many choices in Richmond that were not here 25 years ago, or even 5 years ago. And you look to see how Richmond's grown, and I mean, home sort of encapsulates all of that. I mean, what are the amenities we have here? I mean, look at Scott's Addition, or the new ball field, or the new outdoor amphitheater. I mean, all that stuff, and the brewery. I mean, none of that it hasn't been that long that we didn't have any of that.
Lots of community.
So that's part of home, I guess. If you're answering, I think it's all a big package.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's part of the community. It's the lifestyle that you live.
And what's important? I mean, do you want to ski? Do you want to go in the water? Do you want to go to D.C.? I mean, we're very fortunate to be where we are, and there are a lot of choices and a lot of places to call home. I mean, you were in Powhatan. I mean, that's a totally different world than what I'm used to.
Yeah. Now I'm in the city with you.
Right.
I've crossed the river. I've had my vaccinations.
I'm glad you came around.
Thank you. Well, Doug, I am grateful that you would sit down and share just a glimpse of your story with us. I know you're still very humble, so we will work to get more information from you. Okay, we will.
Thank you for having me.
I think it's absolutely. It's a big lesson, I think, for us to hear. Sometimes we're overcomplicating things, and it's just the people you're with.
Yeah.
Choose wisely.
Choose wisely. Doesn't need to be complicated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
That's a wrap.
We did it.